Pretty interesting short clip here I came across on Twitter. Joe Biden was being interviewed, I think today, the 26th, not sure what exact day it is in January, but on the 26th, this was posted. Joe Biden was being interviewed about, his proposing cuts in the past to Social Security, and he gives some pretty interesting responses. So let's take a look.
Real contention to get the whole nomination. This fight with Bernie Sanders over Social Security, you've said that he, quote, doctored video of you from the Senate back in the...
Which obviously he didn't. Bernie and the Bernie team was just putting out a video, Joe Biden, in his own words, advocating for cutting Social Security and these other really important programs like Medicare and Medicaid.
Talking about Social Security, but you did argue that cost of living adjustments as part of a general spending freeze were necessary to cut federal spending and reduce the deficit. That aside,
that was 20 years ago.
So that might have been a little bit hard to hear at first, but so what Joe Biden said there with regards to the cost of living increases that he was going to freeze. So obviously that is a cut, a reduce in benefits. Joe Biden has been in support of that in the past, and he just said there that was 20 years ago. That's not now. I supported that in the past, but I'm not going to support it now or in the future. So, I mean, which Joe Biden do you want to believe? The multiple times throughout his time in office, either as a VP in Obama's administration or as that senator from MBNA, where he, advocated multiple times that he was open to cutting these benefits. Bernie's been clear and consistent in his support for wanting to expand and protect Social Security. Biden's been open to cutting it. I'd much rather have that program in the hands of Bernie Sanders and his judgment, because he's going to look up and protect these benefits, and Joe Biden's open to cutting them.
Sanders is playing a little rough here, and your position has changed. What about...
He's not playing rough here. He's trying to win this Democratic primary, and it's totally within the realm of reason to call out Joe Biden for wanting to cut Social Security, because that's just horrible on its face. And additionally, Joe Biden has a lot of support on the older voters, so it makes sense to hammer away at this message to point out to these older voters that no, actually Joe Biden has a horrible record when it comes to fighting to protect and or expand Social Security and these other really important programs.
Those Democratic voters who say... What about those Democratic voters who say that...
So, and then right there, let's listen to that again. He says it hasn't changed, but you just said in the past you're open to cutting it, and it hasn't changed? That does not make any sense whatsoever, Joe Biden. So let's listen to that again.
The deficit. That aside,
that was 20 years ago.
Even if Sanders is playing a little rough here, and your position has changed, what about those Democratic voters who say...
It hasn't changed.
I mean, he keep putting his foot in his mouth, and this is one of the reasons. I also saw on Twitter that in the last couple of days, maybe even longer, his campaign, Joe Biden hasn't been taking any questions from the press at any of his events, as well as taking any questions from voters. So they're just trying to hide from all of Joe Biden's horrible policy records.
What about those Democratic voters who say that Bernie's been consistent this whole time?
Well, he hasn't been, but I'm not going to
attack. And then that's just a really shady way to try to throw Bernie under the bus, saying Bernie hasn't been consistent, but then saying, I don't want to go there, I'm going to move on. No, if you really think Bernie is so shady and inconsistent in his advocacy for supporting and expanding Social Security, then you should lay that out, Joe Biden. But guess what? You can't, because Bernie has been just excellent on this issue. You have nothing to throw at him with regards to Social Security.
Bernie. He hadn't even been consistent on Social Security. But here's the deal. I laid out clearly what my plan for Social Security is. I'm going to increase Social Security benefits. I'm going to raise taxes for people making over $400,000 so they pay the same tax on every dollar you pay at your salary, or at $100,000 or $50,000 or $40,000. That will, in fact, allow us to get those folks who are outliving their Social Security in terms of benefits, be able them to increase their benefits. Those families where a spouse dies and the total Social Security goes down, increase their benefits and make it solvent for that child of yours I met.
So when you say your position hasn't changed, you were advocating for...
That's good that he went back to that. And those things that Joe Biden are saying, that sounds nice, and if you aren't maybe familiar with Joe Biden's record vis-a-vis trying to cut Social Security multiple times in the past, and you're like, oh, okay, he wants to protect it and expand the caps and all of these things. And then the reporter correctly points out, you said it hasn't changed, but you're open to cutting these benefits in the past. That's different than what you're saying now. Which version of Joe Biden on Social Security should we believe?
COLA freezes then, but you don't think they should happen now?
No, I don't think they should. And that was in the context of a gigantic piece of legislation relating to what we're in a gigantic deficit.
So what happens when Joe Biden gets in office? He's not gonna, because unless the Democrats totally just torpedo Bernie's campaign, the Democratic establishment, I should say, like they did in 2016, Bernie will be the nominee for sure. It's going to be a fight ahead of us, but I'm pretty confident. What happens if Biden gets into office and he says, "Oh, look, the deficit, it's massive, it's huge. We gotta be open to cutting entitlement programs." He was open to it before. What makes you think he wouldn't do it again? I don't trust him.
And it wasn't to totally freeze him; it was to freeze for that 1 year.
Now he's trying to justify it. Well, we were only gonna freeze these benefits for 1 year, so if your grandma had to go eat some cat food for that year, or if she wasn't able to, afford her rent every month, that's okay. It was only a year. I'm Joe Biden. I'm wealthy. The Republicans and corporate Democrats who I was willing to, go along with cutting this, we're all wealthy. We have, a lot of money. We're not going to have to rely on Social Security, but F everybody else for that year. They can get by with cat food and living in a cardboard box. These elderly people, they just go get a job.
And if we had done everything else, we froze across the board, including the military.
So that, again, that doesn't make it sound any better, Joe Biden, saying that you were only going to cut Social Security benefits for a year and it was in combination with cutting these other things. No, it's like in times of economic hardship, in times when the economy's not doing good, the government should be spending more. They should be increasing the benefits to these programs, the people that need them the most. And the only candidate, again, who has been clear and consistent with their support of wanting to expand Social Security and protect it is Bernie Sanders. And honestly, like I said, I just don't trust any of these other Democratic candidates to follow through with any of that stuff, especially Joe Biden, because we have him on record multiple times in the past advocating for cutting these same programs that he's saying he will protect now. I just don't believe it. And if you do, I would really love to hear your rationale and reasoning why, because to me, I just not there. And so this is one of Bernie's advisors, Warren Gunnels, 91. Bernie was one of 27 House members to co-sponsor legislation to expand Social Security. Joe Biden was in 95. I was trying to cut it once, twice, 3, 4 times. All government programs. He was open to spending cuts. 2018, Bernie forms the Expand Social Security Caucus with over 150 members. Americans can trust President Sanders will fight to expand Social Security because he always has. Hashtag tell the truth, Joe. Indeed. I mean, if you're buying the malarkey that Joe Biden is selling right now, that he is some type of advocate or champion of Social Security, I have some swampland I would be very interested in selling to you at a great deal though. So again, it's really important to hammer away at this point. Joe Biden's open to cutting Social Security in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if he was willing to do that as a president. Bernie Sanders is the only choice. He's going to stand up and fight for the interest of the working people, of the working class in the United States, and he's the only candidate who I have, a real true faith that they will do that. So let's make sure we're doing everything that we can to make sure Bernie gets over the hump. He's the Democratic nominee, and then all hands on board, all hands on deck, I should say, to make sure he beats Donald Trump. Peace. Much love.